They said in the village of Okra, a bay estate, no one eats rats. Not because they love animals, but because rats aren't what they seem. When a hungry stranger broke that rule, she didn't just fill her stomach. She uncovered the dark secret of the old women. A secret the whole village was never meant to know. Welcome to Talking African Tales, home of beautiful African stories. In a Bay state, the people of Okra had a strange belief, one that outsiders never really understood. Nobody in Okra ate rats, not even by mistake. To them, rats weren't just animals. They were sacred, protectors of the land. Long ago, during one of the old tribal wars, when enemies surrounded the people of Okra, it was said that thousands of wild rats came from the forest, confusing their enemies, digging tunnels through which the villagers escaped. Since that day, the people of Okra vowed never to harm a rat again. So, if you ever walked through the dusty roads of Okra, you would see them everywhere. Rats scurrying freely between compounds, nibbling cassava leaves near people's doors, unafraid of humans. That was how Amina, a young lady from the TB of Benue, first noticed something strange about the place. She had come to Okra looking for a better life, a fresh start. Life in her village back home had become too hard. Her parents were gone and she needed to find work, even if it meant traveling far south. At first, Okra felt like a blessing. The air was clean, the people were polite, and her landlady, Mama Kailma, gave her a small room at the back of her compound for a cheap price. Every morning, Amina joined other young women to look for work at nearby markets and small businesses. Some days she got lucky. Other days she returned home hungry, her stomach empty, her spirit tired. But no matter how hungry she was, rats ran freely across her path, fearless like little kings of the village. At first she laughed at it. These people really let animals live among them, she told herself. Back home in Benue, we would have roasted them by now. When she said that to her landlady one evening, Mama Kailma smiled and shook her head. My daughter, she said, don't ever say that again here. In this land, rats are not to be touched. They saved our fathers. If you kill one, it is not rat meat you will eat. It is death. Amina forced a laugh, but there was something in the old woman's tone that unsettled her. She decided not to argue. Still, as the weeks passed, work grew scarce, and the hunger grew worse. Sometimes she would go 2 days without proper food. She began to look thinner, weaker, and all the while the rats kept coming. They scurried across her compound in the evenings, brushed against her feet when she sat outside, and sometimes just stood there staring. Their eyes, she noticed, were not like the eyes of ordinary animals. They looked knowing. One night, as the moon shone bright and silver on the red earth, Amina lay on her small bed, listening to her empty stomach groan. She thought about her home in Benue, about the fat bush rats her people roasted with pepper and salt, about how their smell filled the night air. She remembered the laughter around the fire, the taste of roasted meat, the way hunger never lasted long. But here in Okra, she was surrounded by meat, and yet forbidden to touch it. That night, a thought crossed her mind. A thought she tried to push away but couldn't. She whispered to herself, how can I die of hunger while food walks freely around me? She turned to the wall and closed her eyes, but the thought wouldn't leave her. From that night on, she began to look at the rats differently, not as sacred creatures, but as food, and the hunger in her grew teeth. She started to plan. Every Saturday night, she noticed the villagers went home early. The streets were quiet, and the nights felt strangely heavy, almost sacred. It was the only time she could move unnoticed. She told herself she wouldn't make it a habit. Just once, just one rat to fill her stomach. And so one Saturday night, Amina set out quietly with a small snare she had made from old wire and a stick. The forest behind Okra was dark, quiet, and alive with night sounds. She could hear crickets, the wind through the leaves, and the faint rustle of tiny feet. She waited. Then under the pale moonlight, a fat rat scurried close, sniffing the air. Amina held her breath. The trap snapped. She had caught it. When she got home, she killed the rat quickly, whispering, "Forgive me, small one," as if to silence her guilt. Then she roasted it in secret, unnoticed. For the first time in many weeks, Amina ate until her belly was full. She slept peacefully that night, never knowing that at that same moment in another part of the village, one of Okura's oldest women took her last breath. The morning after her forbidden meal, Amina woke up feeling alive again, strong, satisfied, and grateful for the first time in weeks. She had roasted the rat in her house at midnight, Satan no one saw her. But as she fetched water that morning, she met a strange scene. Villagers gathered weeping and whispering. An old woman, Mama Ngozi, had died in her sleep. No sickness, no warning, just gone. Amina offered the usual sympathy, not thinking much of it. After all, old people died sometimes. But as she turned back toward her room, a rat scurried across her path and paused, staring directly at her. Its stillness, its unblinking eyes, felt almost human. She shook it off. Nonsense, she muttered. Days passed. Work was still scarce. Hunger began to creep back, biting harder each night. And so when another Saturday night came and the village went quiet as always, she found herself back in the forest. Her trap in hand. The moon hung heavy above the trees. The air was cold, heavy and still. She waited. Then came the rustle. Another rat. This one gray and large. It scurried closer, sniffing at the ground. The trap snapped. The rat struggled, making a sound that didn't quite sound like an animal's. For a brief moment, Amina froze, but hunger silenced hesitation. She killed it, roasted it, ate again, and the next morning the same thing happened. Another old woman gone without reason. The villagers began to whisper louder. They said the ancestors were angry that something unholy had entered their land. No one suspected the quiet Tiv lady living at the edge of the compound, the woman who slept soundly after each Saturday meal. But sometimes when Amina sat beside the fire, she swore the meat smelled different, faintly bitter. She ignored the feeling. Because hunger teaches the stomach to forget what the mind remembers. By the third Saturday, Amina's fear had faded, replaced by something darker, habit. She told herself it was survival, not greed. After all, what was a woman supposed to do when work was scarce and hunger chewed at her bones? Every Saturday night, the village of Okura went quiet. The air always felt heavier, the moon dimmer, and even the trees seemed to listen. But that never stopped her. She would wait until the last lamp in the village went out, then slip into the forest with her snare and a small torch. That night the forest was deathly silent. Even the crickets held their breath. She waited, heart thumping until she heard it. Soft steps in the grass. Another rat. Fat, slow, unafraid. She set the trap, whispered a short prayer, and waited. Snap! It was caught. By now the guilt was gone. The fear, too. She killed it quickly, roasted it, and ate before dawn. The next morning, the village woke to wails again. Another old woman gone. This time, it was Mama Adiz, one of the village's councilwomen. She had been seen the night before, laughing and strong, but before the cock crowed, she was gone. The villagers began to talk quietly, fearfully. They noticed the pattern. Every Sunday, an old woman died, and before each death, strange winds swept through the village at midnight. People said maybe the ancestors were angry. Others whispered that someone had broken the laws of the land. Still, nobody suspected Amina. She was the outsider, quiet, polite, always minding her business. But deep inside, something had started to bother her. One night, as she roasted her catch, she felt eyes on her. She turned and saw a line of rats sitting at the edge of the bush, staring. They didn't move. They didn't blink. She threw a stone, shouting, "Go!" They scattered, but not far. That night, she couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, like something alive was pressing against her walls. She thought she heard footsteps, tiny, soft, circling her room. Then came a whisper, not from outside, but from her own mind. "You've eaten too many." She sat up, heart pounding, sweat rolled down her face. She waited, but the voice never came again. When dawn broke, she swore she'd stop. No more hunting, no more meat. But as the next Saturday drew near, the craving returned. Stronger than hunger, louder than fear. It wasn't just food anymore. It was an edge she couldn't explain, a call she couldn't resist. And before she knew it, the hunter's night came again. She waited until all lights were out, then took her snare and torch once again, slipping into the darkness behind the compound. She knew the path too well now. The thick shrubs, the hollow tree where she always set her trap. The forest was silent as if watching her. Minutes turned to hours. Then suddenly, a rustle. A large rat appeared, darker and bigger than any she'd ever caught before. It moved strangely, limping slightly, its eyes glistening under the dim moonlight. She whispered, "Come closer." And the creature did as if obeying her. The trap snapped. The rat squealed once and fell still. She smiled weakly. "At least I won't sleep hungry." She roasted it before dawn, alone, silent, with only the fire's crackle and the night's breath around her. The meat was tender, richer than any before. She ate until she could eat no more, wiped her hands, and went to bed satisfied. But that Sunday morning, screams tore through the compound. Women wailed, men shouted, doors flew open. Amina jumped from her bed and ran outside, heart racing. People were gathered at the front of the compound, some crying, others whispering in disbelief. On the ground lay Mama Kioma, her landlady, lifeless, cold. Amina froze, her breath caught in her throat. "She was fine last night," one woman cried. "She even prayed before sleeping," someone muttered. "The curse has taken another old woman." Amina couldn't speak. Her stomach turned. Her hands trembled. The smell of roasted meat still clung to her fingers. She stepped back quietly, her eyes darting toward her small kitchen. For a moment she thought of the rat she had killed. The limp, the way it had struggled, how its eyes had seemed familiar. And then like a whisper, the truth brushed her mind. She staggered backward, shaking her head. No, it can't be. But deep down, something told her it was true. The rat she had eaten was her landlady. That night, Amina didn't sleep. She sat by the dying fire, staring into the darkness, waiting for the dawn that never seemed to come. The night it all came to light started quietly, too quietly. The air in Okra was strange that evening. Not a single bird sang, not even the crickets. The moon hung low, pale and weak, like it too was afraid to shine. Amina had not planned to hunt that night. She had sworn to stop after her landlady's death. But hunger, that old familiar hunger, came back like a shadow that wouldn't leave. She didn't go into the forest this time. She stayed behind her small hut where cassava leaves grew thick around the fence. As she lit her small lamp, she heard it, a faint rustle behind her house. She turned and froze. A rat, big, gray. Its eyes glowed faintly red. It wasn't running, wasn't hiding. It just stood there staring at her as if daring her to come closer. "Go away," Amina muttered. But it didn't move. She sighed, picked up her snare, and slowly crept toward it. The rat didn't even try to run. With one quick move, she threw the wire and caught it by the neck. It screamed loud, almost human. Amina jumped back, heart pounding. "What kind of sound is that?" she whispered. She tightened the snare, but something in her told her to wait. Just wait. And that was when chaos broke loose in the palace. Miles away, the Lolo of Okra was at home in her chamber when she suddenly clutched her throat. Her eyes bulged, and she began to scream, choking, gasping, rolling on the floor. Her guards rushed in, but what they saw froze them. The Lolo's skin seemed to flicker. Her voice cracked like two people speaking at once. "Don't let her kill me," she cried. The people in the palace were terrified. "Your Majesty, what is happening?" one asked. Between choking and gasps, the Lolo confessed. "The rats, the ones you see around, they are us, the old women. We take their form to do what must be done in secret. It is our covenant with the ancestors. But the stranger has caught me." The room went silent. The guards stared at her in disbelief. The people outside began to gather, whispering. The truth was out. The rats were not animals. They were the old women of Okra. Still choking, the Lolo managed to shout, Go to the Tiv woman's house before she kills me." In seconds, men and women flooded the streets, running with lanterns and torches, heading straight to Amina's compound. From afar, Amina saw the glow of lights coming toward her. She panicked. She didn't know why they were coming, but her instincts told her to run. She grabbed the struggling rat and slipped through her back door, disappearing into the darkness of the bush. When the villagers reached her house, she was gone. They searched frantically. Then someone remembered her phone. They found her number and called. She picked. Her voice was shaky. "Hello." A woman's voice cried from the other end. "Please don't kill the rat. It's the Lolo. We'll pay you anything. Just don't harm it." Amina froze. Her grip loosened. Her breath caught. "What did you say?" she whispered. "It's the Lolo," the voice sobbed. "The rats you've been killing. They are the old women of Okra." Amina looked down at the trembling rat in her hands. Suddenly, she understood. Every meal, every Saturday, every death. She dropped the rat. It didn't run at first. It just stared at her with those same red eyes as if it knew she finally understood. Then it scurried away into the night. Amina fell to her knees, her face pale, her heart heavy. That was the last night anyone in Okra ever saw her. By morning, the news spread through every corner of Okra. The people couldn't believe it that their old women, the same women they had bowed to for years, had been living double lives. By day, wise counselors. By night, creatures of the dark. The truth struck like lightning. The rats of Okra were never just sacred. They were the old women themselves, using forbidden power passed down through generations. Some said it began as a protection charm centuries ago, but greed turned it into something unholy. The people wept not just for the dead old women, but for the shame their secret had brought upon the land. As for Amina, she never returned to Okra. She fled that night to her home in Banu. Whenever people asked what happened in the south, she would shake her head and say only one thing: never eat what your spirit does not understand. From that day on, she never touched rat meat again. Not in Banu. Not anywhere. The people of Okra still live with that truth. A curse dressed as a covenant. Some secrets are not meant to be touched, and some traditions hide the very darkness they pretend to be against. Hunger may drive a woman to sin, but curiosity can lead her straight into the arms of the unseen. So before you break a rule in a strange land, ask yourself, do you truly know what that rule is protecting you from? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notification for more amazing stories from Talking African Tales.